You've probably heard a lot about trade wars lately. But what exactly is a trade war? Why do countries fight them? And can anyone really win? At first glance, a trade war might simply look like a country trying to protect its economy. But more often than not, trade wars are only part of a bigger conflict, used to punish another country, pressure it to change course, or weaken it economically, sometimes as a setup for other political or military move. In other words, trade wars are about leverage, and countries have a lot of ways to apply that leverage. Some methods are quiet, so subtle you might not even notice. These don't make big headlines, but they create serious pressure. For example, governments might give financial help to their own industries through subsidies, making it harder for foreign competitors to keep up. These tactics might include tax breaks, government loans, or insurance guarantees. That's what we saw with the Boeing versus Airbus battle. Both the US and the EU accused each other of unfairly supporting their airplane manufacturers. Then there are currency wars. That's when a country tries to devalue its own money so its exports look cheaper on the global market. The US and China have gone head-to-head over this for years. Countries might manipulate their exchange rates, cut interest rates to weaken the currency, or even accuse each other of being currency manipulators. And then there are the non-tariff barriers. These are like hidden speed bumps in international trade. Things like safety standards, environmental rules, or licensing requirements that are tough for foreign goods to meet. Other trade war tactics may be more direct and visible. This is where countries start openly using policy to put pressure on each other. One of the most common tools here is the tariff, basically a tax on imported goods. The goal? Make foreign products more expensive, so people buy local instead. That's what the current US-China trade war is all about. Then you have quota wars, which is about setting hard limits. For example, back in the 1980s, the US pressured Japan to limit the number of cars it exported. And then there's the most extreme category, when trade becomes a full-blown weapon. This is where countries aren't just trying to apply pressure. They're trying to isolate or cripple an opponent. We're talking about export controls and embargoes. Think of the US restricting the export of advanced computer chips to China, or the long-standing trade embargo on Cuba. These are serious moves, often used when national security or political ideologies are at stake. So even though most people think trade wars are just about tariffs, there's actually a whole playbook. And depending on the situation, countries will reach for the tool that gives them the most leverage. Now you might be wondering, how does a country win a trade war? Well, that depends on what they're trying to achieve. If it's about protecting jobs or boosting local industries, then success might simply mean bringing factories home or fixing a trade imbalance. But more and more, trade wars aren't just about economics. They're about national security. So winning might mean forcing another country to back down on a policy issue, or stopping them from gaining a technological edge. And at the same time, a smart country tries to avoid too much pain at home. That means being extremely cautious about how the war is fought, so as to keep its economy running, keep public support strong, and keep relationships with allies intact. But what actually determines who wins? First, it's about having a clear strategy. Countries that know what they're fighting for and can stick to the plan usually come out ahead. That also means having political stability. In democracies, you need the public to be on board. In authoritarian systems, leaders might have more room to absorb short-term pain. It also helps if you have a legitimate reason for going to war. If people believe it's about something they care about, they're more likely to put up with higher prices or disruptions. Size helps too. Big, diverse economies have more tools to work with. But sometimes being adaptable is even better. Countries that can quickly change suppliers, shift production, or innovate on the fly tend to recover faster and suffer less damage. Another big factor is leverage. If you control something that everyone else needs, like semiconductors, food, or rare earth minerals, you've got serious bargaining power. And finally, it's a huge advantage if you've got allies. Fighting a trade war alone is tough. But when you work with other countries, you can share the burden, multiply the pressure, and make your case stronger on the world stage. That said, even if you've got all those things going for you, trade wars usually come with a cost. Let's talk about the fallout. First off, prices will go up. Groceries, electronics, gas, it all gets more expensive. That's because tariffs don't just hurt the other side. They often raise costs for your own consumers too. And when jobs are lost or factories shut down, support for the trade war can fade fast. Then there's the issue of supply chains. One export ban can shut down an entire industry. And when countries stop working together, innovation suffers, slowing progress. Trade wars also have a tendency to spiral. One country raises tariffs. The other hits back. Before long, you've got a tit-for-tat battle no one really planned for. And when that keeps going, the global economy starts to break into pieces. Now, here's the most serious part. In some rare cases, trade wars can actually lead to real wars. Take, for example, the early 1940s, when one of the key drivers for Japan's decision to attack the United States was in response to the oil embargo imposed by the U.S. and its allies to pressure it over military expansion in Asia. That's why trade wars have to be handled carefully, strategically, not emotionally. The winners aren't the ones who hurt their opponents the most. They're the ones who stay focused, protect their long-term interests, and avoid tipping the world into deeper conflict.